They thought they buried you. They celebrated over what they believed was your grave. But here's what they failed to understand. You cannot bury what refuses to die. And you, my friend, were never meant for the dirt. Listen closely. The story I'm about to tell you isn't just words strung together to fill the air between us. It's a battle cry that has echoed through the ages, carried on winds that have witnessed the rise and fall of empires. It's the truth your bones have always known, even when your mind forgot. You are unbreakable, unbendable, unburyable. In the ancient sagas of the North, our forebears spoke of Einherjar, warriors chosen by Odin himself, who fell in battle only to rise again in Valhalla, stronger than before. Each morning, these warriors would fight until they were torn apart. Each night, their bodies would mend, ready to battle anew when dawn broke. This wasn't punishment, it was preparation. Because true warriors understand, every fall is merely practice for the rise that follows. You carry this legacy in your blood, whether you know it or not. When storms ravage the northern seas and threaten to swallow longships whole, Viking warriors didn't pray for calm waters. That wasn't their way. Instead, they gripped their oars tighter, set their jaws against the gale, and rowed harder. The storm is not your enemy, they would say. It is the forge that hammers weakness from your heart. This wisdom wasn't scrawled in books meant for dusty shelves. It was carved into the very fiber of their existence, proven through action, not words. When enemies surrounded them, outnumbering them 10 to 1, retreat wasn't considered. Not because they were foolish, but because they understood something fundamental about human spirit. It expands to fill the space courage creates. Look at yourself now. Really look. Those scars you try to hide, they're not marks of failure. They're runes of resilience, etched into your skin by circumstances that should have destroyed you but somehow didn't. Each one tells a story of survival, of persistence, of rising when everything within you begged to remain fallen. The world has grown soft. It whispers seductive lies into willing ears. Stay comfortable, avoid pain, accept your limitations. But comfort is the enemy of greatness. Pain is the doorway to strength, and limitations exist only in minds too afraid to shatter them. In the heart of Norse tradition stands the concept of seether, a magic not of spells and potions but of transformation. The power to bend reality by first transforming oneself. This wasn't mystical nonsense, it was practical wisdom. Because they understood that before you can change your circumstances, you must first change what beats inside your chest. Before you can conquer worlds, you must first conquer the battlefield of your own mind. They knocked you down, perhaps many times, left you gasping in the dirt with blood in your mouth and doubt clouding your vision. In those moments, when breath comes hard and hope seems distant, remember this: the ground is not your home. It never was. It's merely the platform from which you launch your return. Viking warriors had a saying, "Fall 7 times, stand up 8." Simple words that carried the weight of an entire philosophy. They didn't fear falling. They feared only staying down when they could still stand. They feared dishonoring their ancestors by surrendering when fight still remained in their bodies. They feared wasting the precious gift of their existence by living as shadows when they could blaze as flames. What about you? Have you been living as a shadow of what you could be? Have you been accepting the dirt when you were made for the stars? Have you been allowing others to define the boundaries of your power? Enough. The time for slumber has passed. The time for awakening thunders in your chest. Remember who you are, not this domesticated version that fits neatly into boxes created by fearful men. Not this deluded shadow that apologizes for its strength. Remember the warrior blood that courses through your veins, passed down through generations of survivors who refused to yield when yield seemed the only option. They faced ice and fire. These ancestors of yours crossed merciless seas in open boats guided by stars and stun hope. Survived winters that froze the breath in their lungs and summers that scorched the land beneath their feet. And still, they endured. Still, they built. Still, they conquered not just lands, but the very limitations nature placed upon them. Do you think such blood runs thin in your veins? Do you believe the fire that drove them forward has been extinguished in you? Never. It sleeps, perhaps, banked beneath layers of modern comfort and convenient excuses. But it remains, waiting for the breath of courage to fan it back to roaring life. In Norse tradition, the greatest honor wasn't bestowed upon those who never fell, for such men didn't exist. Honor belonged to those who, having fallen, planted their hands in the earth, pushed against its resistance, and stood once more. Those who, with broken shields and bloodied limbs, still raised their weapons and stepped toward danger rather than away from it. Not because they didn't feel fear, only fools feel no fear, but because they refused to let fear make their decisions for them. That is the heritage calling to you now. Not fearlessness, but ferocity in the face of fear. Not absence of doubt, but action despite it. Not freedom from falls, but the unstoppable urge to rise again. And again, and again. The modern world has tried to strip this wildness from you, called it toxic, outdated, dangerous. But there's nothing toxic about refusing to stay beaten. There's nothing outdated about standing tall in your power. There's nothing dangerous about reclaiming what was always yours, the unbreakable core that forms the center of your being. Listen to me carefully. They didn't knock you down because you were weak. They knocked you down because your strength terrified them. They didn't try to bury you out of hatred. They tried to bury you out of fear. Fear of what would happen if you ever fully realized what beats within your chest, what fire burns in your belly, what storms gather in your eyes when you finally decide, enough. The Vikings had a concept known as fylgja, a guardian spirit that accompanied each person through life, invisible but ever present. This wasn't some outside force. It was the manifestation of their own inner power, a reminder that they never walked alone, even in their darkest hours. Your fylgja hasn't abandoned you. It watches now, waiting to see if you'll remember its presence, if you'll call upon the reserves of strength it guards. When Ragnarok threatened to end all existence in Norse mythology, the gods themselves didn't cower. They strapped on armor, they readied weapons, they prepared to fight even in the face of prophesied defeat. Why? Because to them, how you faced inevitable challenges mattered more than whether you overcame them. The glory wasn't in victory assured, but in refusing surrender when defeat seemed certain. This is the code etched into your bones whether you know it or not. This is the truth your heart whispers when doubt clouds your mind. This is the power they've tried to make you forget. You were not created to huddle in safety while storms rage. You were forged to walk directly into the tempest, head high, eyes clear, purpose unwavering. The lightning that splits the sky isn't apologetic about its brightness. The thunder that follows doesn't diminish its voice to avoid disturbing the peace. The mountain doesn't shrink to make the valley feel adequate. Yet somehow, you've been convinced that your power should be muted, your voice softened, your presence minimized. This ends today. In the sagas, heroes weren't men without flaws. They weren't gods disguised as mortals. They were deeply human, filled with doubts, haunted by mistakes, scarred by battles both won and lost. What separated them wasn't perfection but persistence, not flawlessness but fierce resolve, not absence of weakness but the strength to carry on despite it. Be that hero in your own saga. Not because you never falter, but because you refuse to let faltering define you. Not because you never bleed, but because you understand that blood spilled in pursuit of worthy goals waters the soil from which triumph eventually grows. They thought they buried you. What they actually did was plant you. And now, roots stretching deep into soil enriched by everything you've endured, you emerge stronger than before. More resolute, more dangerous to the comfortable lies that would keep you small. More determined to claim the space that rightfully belongs to you in this world. The Norse concept of hamingja speaks to personal power or luck that accumulates through honorable action and courage in the face of adversity. It wasn't given freely. It was earned through standing when others fled, through speaking truth when lies were more convenient, through choosing the difficult right over the easy wrong. Your hamingja builds with every time you rise when falling would be simpler. It strengthens each time you face what terrifies you instead of turning away. The path forward isn't easy. It was never meant to be. In the frozen reaches of ancient Scandinavia, ease bred weakness, and weakness meant death. The harsh landscape forged harsh men, not out of cruelty but necessity. They understood that comfort was a luxury afforded only to those who had first proven their ability to endure discomfort. That strength came not from avoiding challenges, but from seeking them, embracing them, transforming them into stepping stones rather than stumbling blocks. This wisdom hasn't expired with the passing of centuries. The world has changed, but human nature hasn't. What builds strength remains constant across time, resistance overcome, pressure endured, challenges met with unwavering resolve. When Thor faced Jörmungandr, the mighty world serpent, he didn't question whether he was strong enough. He didn't waste time doubting his purpose. He stepped forward, hammer in hand, ready to meet his destiny, whatever it might be. The outcome wasn't what mattered. The standing up was. That's what separates extraordinary from ordinary. Not talent, not luck, not circumstance, but the willingness to rise when every instinct screams to stay down. The courage to continue when logic argues for surrender. The audacity to believe in your own power when evidence suggests otherwise. They wanted you tamed, predictable, contained, a shadow of what you could be. But tamed creatures forget their own strength, Predictable men never discover what waits beyond the boundaries of the expected. Contained spirits never learn the exhilaration of breaking free. Is that what you want? To look back on your existence and see only safe harbors, risks avoided, comfort preserved at the cost of growth? Or do you want to stand at the end, scarred but unbroken, and know that you squeezed every drop of potential from the time granted to you? The choice has always been yours. It always will be. In Norse culture, a man's word was his bond, unbreakable and sacred. Make this promise to yourself now. From this moment forward, you will no longer accept the dirt as your resting place. You will no longer allow others to define the limits of your potential. You will no longer apologize for the fire that burns within you or the space your fully expressed self occupies in this world. This isn't arrogance. This is acknowledgement of what has always been true. You were created to rise, again and again and again. No matter what knocks you down, no matter who tries to bury you, no matter how comfortable the ground might seem compared to the effort of standing once more. The Viking warriors understood something modern society tries to erase. Inside every person exists both creation and destruction, both vulnerability and strength, both doubt and certainty. Embracing one doesn't negate the other. Acknowledging weakness doesn't diminish power. Feeling fear doesn't preclude courage. In fact, the greatest courage always exists alongside the greatest fear, just as the brightest light casts the darkest shadow. Your capacity to be knocked down isn't your flaw, it's the necessary counterpart to your capacity to rise again. Without one, the other couldn't exist. Without the fall, the rise loses meaning. Without darkness, light becomes invisible. They tried to use this against you, pointed to your falls as evidence of unworthiness, highlighted your struggles as proof of inadequacy, used your humanness as justification for keeping you contained. But what if those very things they mocked are actually the source of your greatest strength? What if the cracks are where the light gets in? What if the breaks are where new growth emerges? In the crafting of Norse swords, metal was repeatedly heated, folded, and hammered. Each stress made the blade stronger. Each fold increased its resilience. Each hammer blow refined its edge. The process wasn't gentle. It wasn't comfortable for the metal. But without it, the sword would remain weak, unsuited for the battles it was meant to face. You are that sword in the making. Each hardship, each setback, each moment that tested your limits wasn't punishment. It was preparation, forging you into something unbreakable, something unstoppable, something that cannot be kept down no matter how many times it falls. The world needs such unbreakable spirits now more than ever. It needs men who stand in their truth without wavering, who speak with voices that carry the weight of conviction, who act with the certainty that comes not from arrogance, but from deep connection to something primal and true within themselves. Be that man, not for glory, or recognition, or reward, but because anything less would be a betrayal of what beats in your chest, what flows in your veins, what waits to be expressed through the unique combination of strength and spirit that is you. They thought they buried you. They celebrated too soon, for now you rise, not as you were before, but transformed, strengthened by the very earth that was meant to be your grave. nourished by the darkness that was supposed to extinguish your light, emboldened by the resistance that was intended to break your spirit. The Norse warriors had a battle cry that struck fear into the hearts of their enemies. Odin owns you all. It wasn't just words shouted to intimidate. It was a reminder to themselves that death in honorable battle wasn't defeat, but transcendence. That falling while standing in your truth isn't failure, but glory. Carry that certainty with you as you rise. Let it fuel each step forward. Let it straighten your spine and steel your resolve. Let it transform hesitation into action, doubt into determination, fear into unstoppable force. You cannot be kept down, because keeping down what was made to rise defies the very laws of nature. It contradicts the essential truth of your being. It attempts to deny what has always been and will always be. You are the one who rises, again and again and again, until rising becomes as natural as breathing, until the space between falling and standing shrinks to nothing, until you embody the truth that has waited patiently for you to remember it. You were never meant for the dirt. You were created for the stars. Rise again.